Are we heading towards a world war?
But these kind of reports have denied not just by Iran but also by the United States of America. How come Hamas has taken these kind of actions and Iran been completely unaware of it? This can be a two-front war with Hamas and Palestinians on one side, the Hezbollah on the other side. Possibility of Hezbollah directly getting involved in this conflict. So far, this attack is coincidentally taking place at the same time, but Hamas has been preparing for this operation for the past 2 years. Turkey is also supporting Pakistan and does not criticizes Pakistan on any attack that is being caused on Indian soil.
Now the war is seems to be expanding. Many players are coming to the picture. Jordan, Iran, Syria, Lebanon. They are siding with Palestine and the Hamas, and many players like UK, US, and especially India are siding with Israel. The US warship is coming towards Israel, and are we heading towards a world war?
So let's break this question into different parts. The first aspect being this conflict being spillover across the region with various other parties getting involved in the conflict or not. So there have been reports where there have been blames that have been put on Iran, that Iran gave the go ahead to Hamas, and post which Hamas had took the action by attacking Israel. But these kind of reports have denied not just by Iran, but also by the United States of America and Israel. There are two aspects to it. Either it is being publicly denied to prevent other parties to get involved in this conflict. And also because the other aspect that needs to be taken into consideration is that, yes, Iran supports Hamas, it has supported Hezbollah. There have Iran and Israel have gone at it in Syria as well, because Iran uses these kind of proxies to further its influence in the region. However, so far there have been reports that have only denied Iranian involvement in it, direct involvement. But at the same time, there are still questions as to how come Hamas has taken these kind of actions and Iran being completely unaware of it. So with time only there have to be concrete reports suggesting otherwise. But so far there have been Iranians have denied their role in this kind of conflict. Second of all, apart from Hamas, there have been other Palestinian groups that are currently involved in this conflict against Israel. The other forefront that have been brought upon is that this can be a two-front war with Hamas and Palestinians on one side, the Hezbollah on the other side, because there have been recent reports that their rockets were launched by Hezbollah on Israel, and then Israel retaliated. But Hezbollah so far has had a restricted response to the recent conflicts. Even the attacks that have taken place carried out by Hezbollah have been carried out not on Israel directly, but on mainly the disputed regions. And Israel has also reciprocated to those attacks by launching rockets that have resulted in the death or killings of a few Hezbollah members. So Israel versus Hezbollah in these kind of situations have been taking place not just as of now in this particular conflict, but have been taking place for the past few years, where they both have had restricted attacks on each other time and again. This also underscores that possibility of Hezbollah directly getting involved in this conflict so far is likely, but at the same time, it's not highly likely highly likely. Moreover, for Hezbollah, these kind of attacks, even if it's in a limited means, it's somehow showing that we are siding with Hamas. We are not completely deserting them or completely be staying away from this conflict, but at the same time, make taking a measured action to prevent direct confrontation, complete retaliation from Israel's side as well. So this is one aspect. The second aspect being what the overall reaction amongst the region with regards to the recent Israel versus Hamas and other Palestinian groups. In broader sense, the general public in the Middle East is still supportive of the Palestinian cause. It's still supported that Arab normalization with Israel should not take place under the Abraham Accords. Because coincidentally, this also takes place at a time where Saudi Arabia was in talks with normalizing ties with Israel. That also brings the foreign policy aspect of, can it take, is the attack taking place just to prevent this kind of a normalization of Saudi Arabia with Israel or not, or is it just to hinder? This attack is coincidentally taking place at the same time, but Hamas has been preparing for this operation for the past 2 years. At the time when Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was still deemed as the pariah by the United States of America, where still the conversations of normalizing ties with Israel were not at the forefront, and there were still issues between United States of America and Saudi Arabia relations at that time. So the normalization of ties with Saudi Arabia and Israel only comes as a coincidence, because Hamas, once they have absolutely prepared for the operation, they cannot wait for it, because if it is intercepted, Israel would carry out preemptive attacks. The other aspect with coming to the next option is about the Israel Abraham Accords. Abraham Accords refers to the uh, normalization of ties between the Arab state and Israel. That these Abraham Accords are bilateral agreements that were negotiated under the Trump administration by the United States of America. Taking place in 2020, so far, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, Morocco, and Sudan have already normalized ties with Israel. Other countries are also working towards it, and Saudi Arabia normalizing ties with Israel was at a very close stage, because even in the recent United Nations event in Benjamin Netanyahu had mentioned that we are at the cusp of normalizing ties with Saudi Arabia, and Saudi Arabia also have has time and again stated that we are about to normalize ties with Israel. We are about to recognize relations with create a diplomatic ties with Israel. So to state that how it's going to impact the entire region, how it's going to have, what is the overall regional reaction, it's somewhat having a mixed reaction. Let's take it state by state. First, at the United Arab Emirates. In the initial few hours, you had President Al Zayan, who had not responded, but then after that he had made a statement that we are condemning the attack by Hamas, that we are also condemning the actions taken by Hamas. On the other side, there is the United Arab Emirate public. In general, the Middle East public is still keeping the Palestinian cause at forefront. Then there are issues with, then there are commentators in United Arab Emirates who are making statements that side with the Palestinians and goes against Israel. So these are mixed reaction, because 2 days ago, 3 days ago, I may be wrong on the time frame, but United Arab Emirates had allocated $20 million in humanitarian aid to Palestinians that needs would be dispersed from the United Nations relief and work agencies for Palestinian refugees in the Near East. So mixed reaction from United Arab Emirates, even though Al Zayan has condemned this Hamas attack. Then it comes to Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia foreign minister calls for a Palestinian state in the United Nations General Assembly. That was the meeting took place in New York in September. Then you have the Saudi Arabia ambassador of Palestine that reaffirms Saudi Arabia's stand on Arab peace for Arab peace, in stand on the Arab peace initiative for the normalization of ties with Israel, and is demanding that, stating that we would be asking for return of the occupied territories and the establishment of an independent Palestinian state and return of refugees. Then Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is calling for restraint between Israel and Hamas. but at the same time stating that we are normalizing ties with Israel. So mixed reaction from that aspect as well, because even though is Saudi Arabia had agreed, have been time and again stating that we are going to normalize ties with Israel, that was also not just on one demand, but there were several other demands behind it. That okay, we are going to normalize ties with Israel, but at the same time, we want a NATO style security infrastructure for Saudi Arabia. We want a nuclear program from Saudi Arabia, and that was a bargaining chip that they were demanding, and also taking time for themselves so that they are also able to economically put themselves on the map under the Vision 2030. On the other hand, you have Turkey. If you say Erdogan, who is the leader of Turkey, had stated that Israel is massacring the Palestinians, then also saying that there should be restraints on parties and there should be diplomatic solution, and putting Turkey at the forefront for any diplomatic negotiations between Israel and Hamas, for not just ceasefire but also for the negotiating of hostages, overall diplomatic solution. So that is also a very mixed reaction, because until the past couple of years, Turkey has been very vocal for the Palestinian cause. Turkey is one of the countries, apart from Qatar, that has been very vocal for Palestinian cause. Has also stated Israel to be an apartheid state, the Israeli colonization on Palestinian land, Israel massacring the Palestinians. They have been very vocal on that. Erdogan has been vocal on that, but that rhetoric has come down to a huge extent, and that has to be taken into consideration due to the recent G20 summit that took place in New Delhi, wherein the Prime Minister Narendra Modi had signed the IMAC, which is the India, Middle East, and European corridor
Economic
that
corridor.
completely bypasses Turkey. Instead, it starts from India and ends at Greece. Greece, a nation with which Turkey has had disputes not just for a couple of years but for decades. And that conflict between Greece and Turkey has escalated to a huge extent, because if this corridor is built, it is going to have a huge economic impact on the maritime industry that will eventually impact Turkey. So they have also reduced that kind of a rhetoric, because Erdogan also wants to push that okay, you can have, instead of having Greece, you can have Turkey. You and Turkey having direct negotiations about it with India is somewhat challenging, because Turkey is also supporting Pakistan, also supports Pakistan, and does not criticizes Pakistan on any attack that has been caused on Indian soil. So, but is India has good relations with Israel. So Erdogan stating that okay, we are reducing on rhetorics, we are stating for a diplomatic solution, but we would also request that instead of we also be included in the IMAC. So having that diplomatic relation not going through from Israel. So you require to be on not directly criticize Netanyahu or the Netanyahu government or the Israel. That is also there. So a lot of diplomatic situations are taking place, but so far stating that this will have a huge repercussion, or it would have a complete spillover on the region, and it would have direct military involvement from other countries, is highly unlikely. Obviously, there would be situations where our diplomatic involvement, there would be there are statements coming through, but the possibility of other states completely coming out in support, support of okay, we'll also have a military involvement in this conflict, is not is absolutely not likely, because policymakers are on one side, have a different statements coming through. The in general, the Middle East public still supports that Palestinian cause is at the forefront, and it needs to be taken into consideration not just by Middle East states but in the Islamic world. And at the same time, they believe that Arab normalization of ties with Israel should not take place. And the other hand, you have the leaders. So there is a gap between the leaders and public with regards to these places. So measured. There's going to be a measured response from the leaders.
Thank you so much for shedding some light on the ongoing Israeli Palestinian issue. And thanks for joining us and providing such a insightful information. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.